Steel Curtain has only been standing for 2 years, but it already has a complicated history full of ups and downs. Being the first coaster of this kind from manufacturer S&S, there was a lot of excitement when Steel Curtain was announced in the summer of 2018. After months of teasing by the park, we finally knew what would be replacing the park's log flume, and it's still unlike anything you'll find elsewhere. After a lengthy and difficult construction period, Steel Curtain finally opened on July 13, 2019, and early reviews were extremely positive. Riders praised the coaster's speed and smoothness, although the back seats did have a slight rattle. Being the focal point of the coaster, the inversions were praised as well, especially the first one, breaking the record for world's tallest coaster inversion. As the first step toward opening the new Steelers Country area, Steel Curtain seemed to be running well, but that's not to say the coaster didn't experience its share of problems. The restraint system, consisting of a seatbelt and lap bar, was the cause for many delayed dispatches. The seatbelt was discreet and easy to miss, leading to the restraints having to be unlocked multiple times before a single dispatch, and the lap bars were frequently not pulled down far enough, which meant the ride ops had to press them down further themselves. Adding to the list of problems were 2 train operations. When the park was running 2 trains on Curtain, the second train would wait on the brake run until the first train was halfway up the lift hill. This contributed even more time between dispatches, and this was because the dispatch system was actually still being fine-tuned and reprogrammed throughout most of 2019. The reason for this was because Kennywood skipped a soft opening period for the coaster as the construction took longer than expected. Needless to say, capacity was not Steel Curtain's strong point during its opening year, and the coaster ended up closed for more than a few days that year as the park worked out these issues. Since Steel Curtain opened midway through that season, many people did not get to ride the new coaster in its opening year, and were excited to ride in the 2020 season. Of course, because of the pandemic, everyone's plans were thrown up in the air, and Kennywood operated an extremely limited season that year, only open from July to September. Still though, many accepted the new regulations and came to the park to get their first Curtain rides, only to find the new coaster shut down, and it would stay that way for the entire year. That's right, Steel Curtain didn't operate at all in 2020. The giant yellow structure that commanded the spotlight over the park wasn't even running. The reason for Curtain's year-long closure has never been commented on by the park, but that hasn't stopped several leaks and rumors from coming out. One popular rumor has to do with a dispute between manufacturer S&S and Kennywood's parent company Palace Entertainment. Wanting all rides under their ownership to comply with European safety standards, even if they're not located in Europe, parent company Parques Reunidos required Steel Curtain to be reworked with new seatbelts, meaning S&S had to redesign them. This seatbelt issue would result in a lot of back and forth between S&S and Palace, but the end result is that, yes, Steel Curtain does have new seatbelts now. Some people have mentioned that the year-long closure was because the dispatch system was being reprogrammed, but in reality all those problems were fixed by the time Fright Nights began in 2019. Another popular theory is that several connecting track bolts needed to be tightened, as the Sea Serpent roll caused some related issues shortly after opening. Whatever the case, 2020 would not be Steel Curtain's time to shine. After the longest off-season the park experienced since 2001, a lot of people were excited to get back to Kennywood and ride Steel Curtain. The park's extended silence was broken on April 30th, when a video was posted advertising that yes, Steel Curtain would be ready on opening day. Everyone's excitement was through the roof until May 7th, the day before opening, when the park quietly announced that Curtain would not be ready after all. The fact that the park announced this after they already promised the coaster would be open likely meant that something unexpected had happened, and that was exactly what went down. Steel Curtain has 2 trains, labeled as Train 19 and Train 33, after the year the Steelers were founded. On May 7th, the day before opening, Steel Curtain was running test trains in the frigid weather, being only in the high 40s all day. As Train 33 approached the dive loop, it lost all momentum and rolled back, valleying between the dive loop and airtime hill. Train 33 had to be removed with a crane and inspected, which is why Steel Curtain did not reopen on time. There were a few weeks of speculation over what was going on, but only a week later, Train 19 was seen testing before finally reopening to the public on May 21st. The catch is that so far, Train 19 is the only train, as Train 33 is still completing its required test runs, so for now, Curtain is operating with 1 train only. Has anything else changed? Well, as I previously mentioned, the seatbelts were replaced. The buckles are slightly farther down beside the seats, making them a bit more difficult to plug in, and there are new sensor boxes that can tell the ride operator if and when a seatbelt is unbuckled. Despite these changes though, the seatbelts are still the biggest problem inhibiting dispatches. It's still so easy to miss the seatbelt if you're a first-time rider, and if you pull down the lap bar before buckling the seatbelt, the ride ops have to release the lap bars for everyone. Even though the park has signs all over the station reminding riders to buckle the seatbelt first, so many people don't notice them. This means that no matter how fast the ride ops move to check everyone's restraints, you're inevitably going to run into a couple cases where restraints have to be unlocked. So things are improved now over 2019, but they're far from perfect. So, how does Curtain ride after all this time? It's still as excellent as I remember it, but with a few subtle differences. The first inversion still gives some serious hang time, and the train maintains its speed well throughout the course of the ride, but it does feel slightly slower overall. I really noticed this in the dive loop, which originally threw me into the side of the seat, but now the transition isn't as sudden. Thankfully, the stall is still the same, probably my favorite element on the coaster, and the train still has a ton of speed heading into the brake run, so it's still relentless until the end. Well then, Steel Curtain has definitely had a difficult life in the only 2 years it's been around. It's great to see the coaster return to operation this year, but those wait times have been pretty scary lately. Because of the one-train operations, Curtain has been sitting at an over 2-hour wait time on average recently. Hopefully Train 33 can be back up and running soon to help with those wait times, since the only way I've been able to ride recently is by getting to the park right at opening and then running straight to Steel Curtain. Train 33 has been testing on weekdays recently, so here's hoping for 2 train ops soon, and then maybe the rest of Steelers Country can finally open, 2 years late. That brings us up to date with Steel Curtain's history. Thank you all for watching, and I'll be sure to pin a comment if both trains are running again. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all here next time on Rampaging Rex Productions.